So for more on this now, let's speak to US Correspondent Sherwin Bryce-Pease, who's live for us in New York. Sherwin, good evening to you. And the fight, right, over the Strait of Hormuz drawing near the region, drawing the region rather into an expanding conflict. This is with the US intelligence now assessing that Iran retains significant fighting ability and that US strikes along are unlikely to force Tehran to change course in the short term. So what else do we know?
Well, essentially, Bongiwe, US intelligence confirming what is playing out before our eyes here. Neither of the sides in this conflict are breaking. The revenge tit for tat, if you hit us, we'll hit you back. That, as we've described it, you and I, circling the wagon continues. And now US intelligence assessment suggests that Iran's military has significantly been degraded by American strikes, particularly its command centers, missile infrastructure, and drone capabilities. This is confirming what President Donald Trump has said over and over again, that they basically don't have a navy, that we've been hitting them hard. And so this is now verified by US intelligence. But they also say, Bongiwe, that Tehran still retains the ability to strike back and could sustain a prolonged conflict. What did President Donald Trump say at the beginning, at the genesis of this conflict in February of this year? Between 4 and 6 weeks. We are now into 20 plus weeks, over 140 days, and there is no end in sight. I can tell you Iran's interior minister is currently in Pakistan. He met with Shehbaz Sharif, the prime minister, one of the lead mediators here. There is an indication that efforts from the Qataris and the Pakistanis continue to get this 10-day proposal, this 10-day ceasefire proposal, the latest ceasefire proposal that seeks to revive the memorandum of understanding that was signed on June 17th back on track. But in the interim, retaliatory strikes are continuing, and the region is being drawn in. Your Kuwaits, your Qatars, your Bahrain, Jordan. The casualties on both sides are rising. Right? Confirmation from the United States that 3 service people have been killed. A 4th is missing. Dozens of Iranian military personnel have been killed. The United Nations is raising concern about the destruction of civilian infrastructure in these tit-for-tat strikes. This is what the UN Secretary General spokesperson said earlier today. Watch.
The Secretary General is particularly concerned about attacks on civilian infrastructure in Iran, including a nuclear power plant under construction and a desalination plant. And also across the region, we've seen attacks on power plants and desalination plants in Kuwait and other places. Such attacks are unacceptable and must stop immediately. The Secretary General reiterates once again that there is no military solution to this conflict, and he calls for intensifying diplomatic efforts towards a peaceful and durable settlement. Such a settlement should include the full restoration of international navigational rights and freedom of navigation in and around the Strait of Hormuz. Vital infrastructure on which civilians rely for survival, including hospitals, water supplies, must be spared. All parties must respect their obligations under international humanitarian law, including the principles of distinction, proportionality, and precaution.
And of course, Bongiwe, in the context of prices going up, fuel at around 91, Brent crude oil, I beg your pardon, at around $91 a barrel. Of course, that is due to this fight over control of the Strait of Hormuz. And now you've got the Houthis in Yemen interjecting here in terms of their bilateral relationship with Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has come out, the foreign ministry, to condemn this maritime blockade that the Houthis say they will be instituting. But if ships start to burn in the Red Sea corridor, oil prices are going to shoot closer to $100 a barrel, if not more. And that means your car, the fuel that you put in your car, diesel in particular, petrol in the main. Let's watch what the Reserve Bank governor decides on Thursday in terms of interest rate hikes here, because inflationary pressure as a result of rising fuel costs is going to be brought to bear on all of us, no doubt.
And no doubt indeed, Sherwin, and anxiety-inducing stuff, that is. I mean, given the rising, casualties also on both sides. This includes at least 3 American soldiers killed in the last several days and then dozens of Iranian troops, no less. The financial cost is also likely to be laid bare when the U.S. Secretary of Defense, that's Pete Hegseth, testifies before a Senate Appropriations Committee later today. So one wonders what that might look like.
Yeah, remember that Congress holds the purse strings in the United States government. And so despite them sort of unilaterally going to war here, that is the Trump administration, they need to now go to Congress to make the case for a supplementary expenditure bill that has been requested by the White House to the tune of $87.6 billion. $67 billion of that package is earmarked for the Pentagon. Why? They have troops in the region. These people need to be fed. They have missiles that need to be replenished. They have aircraft that need to be refueled. And so this is an expensive exercise the longer we go in here. So Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, what they call now the Secretary of War, alongside his Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane, they are going before the Senate Appropriations Committee to make the case, to tell us how much this has costed so far, how much this has cost so far. The only number we have to date from the administration is around $30 billion, and that was back in April. Estimates that we are seeing from various think tanks say the cost of this war to date could exceed $100 billion. That is a fifth almost of South Africa's GDP. Let's put that into context for you.
Sure, Sherwin. Anxiety in the US, anxiety in South Africa, everywhere, especially given, the effects and the impact that this could have on people's just money. So thank you so much for just putting it into perspective for us. Our colleague there, Sherwin Bryce-Pease, live for us in New York.